The topic of my presentation is the recovery of chernosome structure depending on dissolved organic matter. In recent years, our groups work in steppe region of Russia, in Kursk region, and we studied how degradations influence to structure stability of chernosomes. And we found that unlike the arable lands, soils under shelter belts with oaks characterized by high carbon content, good water permeability, and good structure. And also we know that these soils are previously arable also. So alkali extraction, investigation of chromatographic study of alkali extraction shows that soil under shelter belts characterized with more content of hydrophilic components of soil organic matter. This is important for all fractions, such as bulk soil sample and heavy fraction. And also, we find describes the kinetics of aggregate structure under water by experimental motion, and finds that relationship between aggregate stability and hydrophilic content was found, and also was found similar relationship with hydrophobic components of soil organic matter. This implies that soil organic matter in chernosomes play a role in sorry. I'm not a brave person. 1 second. It's play a dualistic role in the formation of macroaggregates in soils. So we know that one of the source of hydrophilic organic matter in soils is dissolved organic matter, and also we know that in our objects, shelter belts, there isn't Hurlbert layer. It contains only layer of dead litter of leaves. So we hypothesized that the main factor of soil structure recovery is dissolved organic matter from oak litter. For verification of this hypothesis, we propose the experiments field. The design of experiments you can see on the slide. The 6 zero potential dosimeters was laid. We took sample from arable horizon from chernosome, and some dosimeters contain only litter residues, and some of these contain also 2 layers leaves or perennial grasses, and a sample of arable horizon. This experiment lasts for two years in Moscow region. What we find that microbial abundance is increased in sample with oak leaves. And this increasing is due to increasing of proportion of anaerobic bacteria species from 10 to 20 times. In sample with grasses, we didn't find microbial abundance increased. And also we know that under anaerobic conditions, completed mineralization of organic matter doesn't occur. So in the final of experiment, we find that the content, carbon content in liter of leaves was higher than in liter of grasses. So carbon losses was lower in sample with leaves. Also, density fractionation has shown that in heavy fractions there is no changes because it's too short time for this transformations. And but we find that in all samples, occlude light fraction and free light fraction has decreased. Also, we find that heavy fraction is completely described by content of thin particles, and the middle of heavy fractions contain only small clay-sized particles. In a sample with oak leaves, also we find that there are the highest interparticle interactions between macroaggregates, and in grasses this not occurs. And aggregate size distribution show that after 2 years big aggregates was formed, but these aggregates isn't haven't water resistance. So content angle, which characterizes hydrophobicity of solid phase of cells, didn't change despite the smallest fractions below 100 micrometers. This fraction characterized with more hydrophobic. So some of conclusions of our study is that effectiveness of leaching doesn't depend on the type of leacher, and that dissolved organic matter from oak leaves into minor horizons reduce the removal of fine particles, and there are not enough influence of dissolved organic matter for cell structure recovery of arable organisms, because also input of organic residues is necessary. And after 2 years of experiment, water stable structure doesn't occur, but under influence of dissolved organic matter from oak litter, modification of solid phase surface take place, and this involves to increasing of interparticle interactions. So this is intermediate results of our research. Thank you very much.
One quick question. Anyone has a burning question to ask? Okay, I'll ask you a short question. So, much of the framing for the research has been around leaflets or residues
Yeah.
in above grounds. How about the roots and the root exudates and the soil rhizosphere itself? Would this be as important, perhaps for oats or maybe for other?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. This experiment was for obtaining only influence of litter, so horizon didn't contain any living plants. So one of the conclusions is that it is necessary, of course, and maybe we should also determine the not only bacterial activity in soils that we have do, and also fungi, because maybe this is more important because of properties of oaks leaves. Yeah.
Thank you.
Brian, can I, Brian?
Okay.
Hana, the hypothesis is great. It's a great hypothesis. I like the hypothesis. Well done. Good work. My question is, in soil structure, polysaccharide plays a major role. Did you get a chance to look at, by adding these oak leaves, did you look at whether there's an increase in polysaccharide? Because it's very difficult to monitor soil structure, but if you measure some other indicators like polysaccharide or something, that can tell you whether your hypothesis can be proved. So did you get a chance to measure other indicators?
Okay, thank you. I think it is really important. We also describe the properties of leachates from dosimeters, but I don't prepare these results. But for this experience, we have temperature dynamicals and we have characteristics of spectral characteristic of dissolved organic carbon from these leachates, and also have concepts of main cations. So I think I must improve this research in future, of course.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.